Alright, so let's continue. So now we need to work on the audio part. We need to play the pronunciation, the audio, when the user clicks on the play icon. So let's get to it. And well, actually, before we do that, there is something that we can improve in the current structure that we have. So instead of having a separate state for the loading one, what I've been thinking is we can use the same definitions one, like the definition state, in order to show the loader. So if the length of it is 0, then it essentially means that we are still trying to fetch the data. And if that's the case, we can show the loader, this thing that we have over here. So let's do that instead. Let's use the definitions, the array, and we can actually get the length of it. If this thing is true, we can reverse the value with an exclamatory mark as such. And if this is the case, we can show the loader. And now we can actually remove the set loading from here. So by doing this, we are kind of doing the two birds one arrow kind of thing. We are using the same state for the content, the data on which is displayed on this page, and we are using it for the loader as well. So that's perfect. And if we save it, we should be seeing the same thing. Let's refresh. There we have the loader, and then we have the content. Perfect. So now let's work on the audio part, and for that let's actually inspect the structure. So we need to inspect the first object within the returned array, and within this object we have the phonetics property, which is an array, and within this we just need to take a look at the first object within the phonetics, as there we have the audio property, which has the URL of the MP3, and we need to use it with the play icon. So if I just visit this thing, as you can see, you might not be able to hear it, but you can test it on your own system. So let's do that over here after we get the data. Well, actually, we need to have a state for it. We need to have a state for the audio. Let's create that state first. Over here we can name it as audio, and the function to be set audio, and by default we can set the state to be of null. So we need to update this state with the audio property, like the value of it. So for that, right over here, the first thing that we need to check is that there is the audio is available, because that's not always going to be the case. Like for instance, if I search for a word called, like if I search for house, it's going to return back the definition, but for this thing the phonetics is an empty array. So this is another thing that we need to take care of, and we can do that right over here. So if the response.data, which is the array, if the first element of it within which we have the phonetics array and the length of it. So as we are going to refer the same value, I think one more time. Let's actually shift it into a variable. Let's name it as phonetics and use it over here. So if the length of it is 0, then this would be true, as if we reverse the value of 0, it is true. If that's the case, we do not want to proceed, and we can just return back from this function, which also means that the audio will remain null because we are not updating the state. So after we have checked this thing, we need to update the state with the audio constructor. So for that, we are going to create the HTML audio element using the new audio constructor, the native audio constructor, this thing. So it takes the URL of the MP3 or like whatever audio file you are referring, and it returns back an HTML audio element on which there are certain methods available which will allow us to play with the audio. So let's do that right over here. Let's actually get the URL first. So within the phonetics, which is an array, we need to tap inside the first element using the square brackets and the 0, as we need the first one, and within this we have the audio. So this thing, the audio is the URL. So as you can see, it's a string value and we cannot use it right away. We need to fix it a little bit, we need to add the protocol at the very starting, as it doesn't have it. So for that, let's actually use the replace method which is available on the string, and we can replace the /SSL, as that's what it is. Oops, where is it? Okay, I think, yeah. 1 second, as that's what it is right over here. So we need to replace this thing with a protocol. Let's go with HTTP as such. Let's go with HTTPS, and okay, so that's done. Now that we have the URL, we can use the audio constructor in order to create the audio HTML element. So for that, well, we don't really need to create another variable. Let's just update the state right away. So to this thing, let's pass in the new audio, and we can pass in the URL as the argument. So if we do that, it's going to update the state with the audio element that we are creating over here. Perfect. So now that it's done, the other thing that we need to do is we just need to play the audio, and we also need to show the play icon conditionally, because as you just saw that it's not always going to be the case that it returns back the pronunciation, like it has the phonetics array is populated. So in order to handle that case, let's look up the play icon. So first of all, we are going to wrap this icon button inside of an expression, and then we just need to check that if the audio is there, only then we want to show the icon button, because if it's null, then the icon button will not be visible, or it will not be added to the tree. So now if we, well, actually let's also work on the play one, the play functionality. So for that, let's pass in the on click when the user clicks on it, a callback where we call the audio.play method as such. If we do that, and if we take a look, and let's click on this thing, let me just refresh. I think it's not working for some reason, and there are a lot of different warnings in the console. Error you does not provide it. Let me just refresh. Seems like okay, so it seems like we are not passing the right URL. Is it the case? So we are this thing, and here we actually need to add the SSL as such as well. So if we do that, and if we take a look, now it should be fixed as we have no warnings. And if I click on this thing, perfect, so that's working. All right, so let's actually try it for the house one, because in that case we should not even be seeing the play icon, and that is perfect, as you can see. And let me just check the console. If we have, well, we have quite a lot warnings, and it seems like encountered two children with the same key, object. Okay, so that's weird. Let's actually take a look at the keys that we are setting. So as we have multiple maps, we need to check this thing. For the fragment, we are using the index, which is fine. Then we have the box, for which we are using part of speech. So I think that's a bit problematic, because different words may have the same part of speech. And if I look up the phone one, which actually has quite a lot, yep, that's what it is. We have a noun part of the speech, and the same thing for the other word. So for this thing, as we are not really mutating the state in any case after the first time, we can use the math.random as such. If we do that, it's just a workaround. It's fine for this case. And let's actually check the object, which I believe is because we are setting the key to be an object. So here it is, definition. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. So the definition that we are setting as the key is actually the object, and we have to go with the definition property which is inside of it. which is also the one that we are displaying over here. So now if we save it, we should not be seeing any warnings in the console. Let's test it out. And let's see. So that is perfect. And now we have a application. I'm not sure whether you heard it, but anyway. Alright, so this completes the audio part, and now in terms of functionality, I think only the bookmarks is left. So let's work on it in the next video.